What if branched evolution Pokemon got another evolution? I have explored this topic in a previous video after we saw it happen recently with Diplin and Hydrapple in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and in today's video we're gonna explore it some more and give some evolutions to some more branched evolution Pokemon. So let's get to it. So we're going to start things off with one of the evolutions, because they technically qualify as branched evolutions, and the evolution that I'm about to show you was made possible thanks in part to today's sponsor, Dave. Dave is a great help in making these videos possible, and they can also help you when you need a little support as well. You never know what life is going to throw at you these days, which is why it is always nice to have a financial cushion if you can, and Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's Extra Cash account. Advance the money when you need with no interest, and then settle up later. Basically, Dave helps you to get money when you need it instead of having to wait for your paycheck at the end of the week. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, you can download Dave today at dave.com/hoops. That's dave.com/hoops. You could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/hoops. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve, member FDIC. And again, a big thank you to Dave for supporting the channel. Alright, so as I said, we're going to start with an evolution, and the evolution in particular we are going to look at today is Leafeon. While the evolutions are kind of in their own category, officially speaking, they are branched evolutions, and giving an evolution an evolution is just too good of an idea to pass up. So with that said, I would like you to meet Folion. Now, as you can clearly see, this evolution is themed around the fall season, which is actually a popular idea for Leafeon that's already been out there for a bit, so this is simply my take on that concept, and I think an evolution of Leafeon would be the perfect fit for it. Like, it's an amazing concept, evolutions are an amazing concept, and so it's like a match made in heaven. And to add the icing on the cake to all of this, the cherry on top if you will, this Pokemon also gains a type upon evolving and becomes Grass Fairy type to be a dual typed evolution. Evolutions with dual types is also another idea that gets a lot of talk and is a popular concept, and I think the perfect way to implement something like that, if it ever were to become a real thing, would be with an evolution. That way you have the evolutions that can stick to their monotypes, and then the evolutions can get the dual types and just go crazy with all the different fun ideas. I gave Folion the fairy type since it is fall themed, and fall tends to bring with it a lot of magical, mystical qualities. I mean, heck, what is probably the fairy capital of the Pokemon world, Laver City, is fall themed itself, so I would say it works out pretty well. The name Folion, meanwhile, is pretty simple, as it simply comes from foliage, referring to the changing autumn leaves that it's based around. Lastly, I wanted to bring up a possible evolution method for this Pokemon as well, since the question of how exactly an evolution would evolve is pretty interesting. I think it is out of the question that it could just level up and evolve, and I think just using a stone again would also be a bit boring as well. So, since the secondary typing that Folion has is also the typing of another evolution, I think a cool way of getting this Pokemon would be to level up Leafeon while also having a Sylveon in your party. This could also provide a reason as to why these evolutions even exist in the first place, because it could then be sort of like a crossbreeding type of thing, where like the energy of one evolution kind of crosses over and mixes with another and results in these evolutions, which could actually work since Eevee is already known for having unstable genetics. So I think that would actually be perfect, and then it would leave you wondering what would happen if you mixed this evolution with that evolution, or that evolution with this one, and so on. So I think that could actually be a really fun concept, but you know what else could be a really cool fun concept? An evolution for Gorebyss and Huntail. It feels like these days, these two are kind of forgotten amongst all the hundreds of other Pokemon that have come out since their debut, but they are a very distinctive and iconic example of a branched evolution. On top of that, since they are kind of forgotten about, I think these guys would be great candidates for some branched evolutions. And with that said, I would like you to meet Villigor and Huntuff. First things first, shout out to my man Oscar for drawing the artwork of the designs that you're seeing in this video, and as always, you can check him out with the links in the description below. But this is what we ultimately came up with for the evolutions of these two Pokemon, and their theme is actually a pretty neat concept. Since Huntail and Gorebyss kind of have a relationship where one is the mean, ugly-looking one, and one is the nice, pretty-looking one, we decided a cool thing to do for their evolutions would be to basically flip it, where Huntail's evolution would then become more of like a heroic type of Pokemon, while Gorebyss's evolution would become more villainous instead. This kind of already fit well with Gorebyss in particular on top of this, since Gore is already in its name. So overall, this just felt like a natural and fun way to go. As the villain of this duo, Villigor is a water dark type, and it gets its name from Gore, just like its pre-evolution like we said, as well as villain for the reasons that I just stated earlier. Meanwhile, the heroic Huntuff becomes a water fighting type upon evolving from Huntail, which is actually a fairly rare type combination, surprisingly enough, so that just makes it all the cooler. And its name also comes from Hunt, just like its pre-evolution, as well as Tough, like the tough fighting type that it is. With all of that established though, let's go ahead and get into what the evolution method for these Pokemon could be. Their pre-evolutions evolved from Clamperl when traded while holding a deep sea scale or tooth. So one possibility could be that you just trade them again while holding the other item that the other Pokemon used the first time around, since after all, they're essentially trading each other's qualities anyway. So you could give Gorebyss the deep sea tooth, and you could give Huntail the deep sea scale. Alternatively though, you could also simply just give them the item for them to evolve instead, since trade evolutions are kind of annoying these days, but something along those lines involving the opposite item that they used to evolve initially, I feel like would make the most sense conceptually for these Pokemon, and could help a lot in breathing some new life into these two fairly forgotten Pokemon. Now we're going to look at another Gen 3 Pokemon that actually gained a branched evolution in Generation 4, and that would be Snorunt and Froslass. Froslass in particular is a pretty popular Pokemon, so just on that basis alone, I think it would be cool for it to get an evolution, but it also feels like it has some room to grow as well, and could legitimately evolve into something cool. So that is what I wanted to try and capture in an evolution, and what we ended up coming up with was Cryogeist. Now, the whole big thing with Froslass is that it's based on the Yuki-onna, which is a yokai in Japanese folklore that is essentially the spirit of a woman who preys on people who get trapped in snowstorms. That definitely had to stay as the theme in this evolution, but now Froslass has basically become more of a fully fledged apparition as Cryogeist instead of a smaller, wispier little ghost that it was as a Froslass. It has essentially become even more human-like, as the Yuki-onna is also known to fool people into believing that it is in fact a real woman. Due to the Yuki-Onna theme, it is also still an ice ghost type as well, and in addition to its general appearance, one thing that I did in particular with the design was make the sash around its waist distinctly blood red, as a small reference to its sinister origins. The name Cryogeist came together quite well in my opinion too, as even though the origin is pretty simple, simply coming from cryo as in cryogenic, referring to the ice type, and then poltergeist referring to the ghost type, the name just sounded like it came together perfectly in my opinion and flows together really well, and also properly reflects Cryogeist as the kind of Pokemon that it is as well. Finally, for the evolution method of this Pokemon, we are presented with an interesting sort of situation, as Snorunt evolves into Froslass with the use of a Dawn Stone, and building off of a stone evolution with another evolution is kind of a tricky prospect. I would actually love to hear any ideas that you guys might have in the comments on this one. The only thing that I would say is that it probably is not going to be a level up evolution coming off of a stone evolution, but anything else is probably fair game. You could possibly use another stone to evolve it, such as the Ice Stone, or maybe you could go with a more unique method of evolution instead. Again, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one, so be sure to let me know all your ideas in the comments below. Those are the evolutions that I've got for you in today's video though, so with that said, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more, and if you enjoy my content and want to help to keep it coming, you can also support the channel by checking out my Pokemon remixes wherever you get your music, and by also checking out my Patreon with the link in the description below, and there you can get a bunch of awesome perks and benefits like updates on my Histrobi Chronicles project, early access to videos, ad-free videos, and more. Any support in either of those places is immensely appreciated, and with that said, I'll be back with another new video very soon, and until then, as always, thanks so much for watching this one, I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.